This is the Dollemore Daily, and I'm Jesse Dollemore.
Right now, the right wing is putting out unfettered propaganda and conspiracy theories and lies about the history of our country and what took place during the Donald Trump administration. They're acting as though Joe Biden is negligent and derelict in his duties as president of the United States, as the enforcer of our laws, and that Donald Trump did such a better job. That Joe Biden has the authority, and he should use his authority, Republicans in Congress say, to just shut down the border with an executive order. Never really coming to grips with the fact that Donald Trump never did that. Millions of people, documented and otherwise, came into this country. Asylum seekers and otherwise entered this country. Millions during his term as president of the United States. But that's okay, because that's when Trump was president. And if you don't believe me, I'm going to get to the story of this Tennessee man who, working with militias, planned to attack the border with heavy arsenal of weaponry, bombs. He wanted to act as a sniper. And the reason I started with this Chip Roy clip that I'm getting ready to play is because these people ignore the facts on the ground that Chip Roy, Ted Cruz's former chief of staff, a radical in Congress, Chip Roy is telling the truth here. He knows the facts on the ground, but regular MAGA world doesn't hear that. They get a steady diet of Fox News, and they're whipped into fear over what is taking place. So much so that they take the opportunity to resort to violence. But I want to get it on the record first that nothing different is happening now than happened with Donald Trump. Absolutely nothing. Here's Chip Roy, then we'll talk about this Tennessee maniac.
No, we're not going to just pass the buck and say that, any president can walk in and secure the border. I saw former President Trump make that allegation earlier today on one of his social media posts. All the president has to do is declare the border is closed, and it's closed. Well, with all due respect, that didn't happen in 2017, 18, 19, and 20. There were millions of people who came into the United States during those 4 years.
Those are the facts on the ground. And maybe if this man in Tennessee knew those facts, was aware of those facts, and not blindfolded by propaganda and lies and conspiracy theories, he wouldn't have done what he did, would not be facing the problem that he faces. And if not for the FBI and the interdiction, the investigatory work and the standing in the gap for the American people in this particular case of the FBI, we might be in a whole different situation with the domestic terror attack at our southern border. Here's the NBC News headline. Tennessee man who was working with militias planned to act as a sniper and attack southern border, feds say. Paul Faye was arrested Monday after he allegedly sold an undercover agent working with the FBI an unregistered suppressor for an AK-47, according to federal court records. A Tennessee man who planned to travel to the southern border with an arsenal of weapons and explosives to stir up a hornet's nest was arrested Monday, federal officials say. Paul Faye, who told undercover agents that the U.S. was, quote, being invaded by illegal immigrants, has been charged with selling an unregistered firearm suppressor, according to a criminal complaint federal prosecutors filed this week in Nashville, Tennessee. Just remind me, somebody remind me, where do we hear words like being invaded? Where do we hear that this is an invasion of our country that Alejandro Mayorkas is allowing and Joe Biden is allowing? We hear this from Republicans in Congress on a daily basis. We hear this from Fox News on a daily basis. And a steady diet of these lies and conspiracies only gets us here. And again, if not for the effort of law enforcement, this would be a whole different story. Faye faces a maximum sentence of 10 years in prison if convicted. He will appear in federal court Monday for a detention hearing. Faye had been on the FBI's radar for a year, and late last year, he told an undercover FBI agent that he was coordinating with militia groups from Kentucky, Georgia, North Carolina, and Tennessee and planning to travel to the border, the document says. He said he planned to meet up with a person who could make explosives to take to the U.S.-Mexico border, according to the court document. His aim was to stir up a hornet's nest, quote unquote, and garner significant media coverage, the complaint said. Quote, what I hope happens is called a domino effect. I want the news to find out about it, Faye said, according to the criminal complaint. Faye also allegedly conveyed to the FBI employee that one of his roles within the group traveling to the border was to serve as a sniper. He said his talent was sending rounds downrange, the complaint says. During a meeting with 3 undercover employees on April 1st, Faye, quote, discussed his belief that the government was training to take on its citizens, and more specifically, that the federal government was allowing illegal immigrants to enter the United States to help the government, the complaint says. And then finally, the next month, on a recorded phone call with an undercover employee, Faye warned, quote, the patriots are going to rise up because we are being invaded. We are being invaded, according to the criminal complaint. You see, this is the natural result of the lies that are being told by politicians on the right. When Republicans yammer on and on and on about the invasion that's not happening, people, they freak out. They do things that are unreasonable and criminal, and in this case, violent. But it won't slow the tide of the lies and the conspiracies and the whipping the crowd into a frenzy language on the part of the right. You're not going to see a downtick in it. If anything, they're going to amp it up because this is what will happen. We will rightly say, this is because of you. You are to blame for this. Ted Cruz, Matt Gaetz, Marjorie Taylor Greene, and other idiots. And they will deny it. Well, I'm just calling it like I see it. If Americans get upset, I have nothing to do with that. And Fox News, a 24/7 propaganda network, continuing this nonsense, showing assaults of migrants live on television in Times Square. They have no concern for the safety of our country or our people. They use everything as a prop, including potential terrorist attacks that they initiate. What do you think? I would love to know. You can call, leave me a brief voicemail, 714-576-4054. Of course, as always, you can email me daily@dollemore.com. Look, I don't want to be in a position to say that I predict something bad is going to happen between now and the election at the hands of some right-wing lunatic, but it looks like it's a foregone conclusion. How many FBI agents do we need in order to lay down a blanket of imperviousness that cannot be breached or broached? That we don't have enough. Eventually, someone's going to fall through slip through the cracks and bring their plan to fruition for violence, like so many times has happened. Anyway, if you appreciate what I do, if I bring you value, please consider supporting this work. Independent media is more important now than ever. We speak plainly, we speak clearly, we tell you the truth. We're not beholden to advertisers and everything else that goes on in corporate media. Anyway, it's too much. It's too much. I'll see you next time. Until I do, be genuine. Take care, one another.